Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the fourth episode of the Rival Opinions podcast. Here today, great week in college football this past week. I'm Ryan Crisp, here with my good friend KJ Rainey.
What's up?
We're going to go in first. We're going to jump straight into the action, talk about the Michigan and Penn State game. Jim Harbaugh's crew going down and whooping up on James Franklin in Penn State.
Yeah, man. Final score of that was 41-17. For Penn State's overall team stats, or not team stats, but box score or whatever. Passing, Clifford was 7 of 19, 120 yards. He averaged 6.3 yards a game, 0 touchdowns. For rushing, Clifford also 6 carries, 74 yards, 12.3 averaging yards on each run. And receiving was Wallace III with 2 receptions, 57 yards, 28.5 yards per reception. That was a
great Big Ten matchup. Yeah. Jim Harbaugh and crew, they seem to be on the path to the... Really, they're not going to have a competitive game unless somebody just comes out of the woodwork and plays above their head until the Ohio State game. The Michigan-Ohio State game will be just like last year. It'll be a great game. Whoever wins that will go on to win the Big Ten championship, most likely, and then represent the Big Ten in the playoffs, if I had to guess.
All right, let's talk about the second game we're going to talk about. The Kansas-Oklahoma game.
Oklahoma. We've been giving them hell every week on the podcast.
Oh, yeah, giving them straight hell, man. Well, I guess Brent and his team got their shit together.
I mean, they finally did it, but, they still didn't play any defense.
No. The final score of that was 52-42. Clearly, Kansas didn't really play that much defense.
And you got to think Kansas is on their backup quarterback, too.
Oh, yeah.
So this is a Kansas Jayhawks team that's handicapped, and they still put 42 points on you.
Yeah, that's true. Let's see, team stats. Kansas total yards were 430 yards. Passing was 265. Rushing was 165. Oklahoma's 701 yards.
God.
Passing 403. Rushing 298.
Big explosive day offensively for those boys.
For leading passer for Kansas, it was Bean, 16 of 27, 265, 9.8 yards averaging. Kansas rushing, Neal, 12 carries, 84 yards, average 7 yards per carry. And for receiving was Arnold for 5 receptions, 113 yards, averaging 22.6 yards a reception. That's
great offensive game. Exciting game, high-scoring game.
Yeah.
Fun to watch.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm still not sold on Brent Venables as a head coach. They desperately needed the win. They were able to scrape it out, but this team needs a dominant performance, and they haven't had it this year.
I honestly think give him another year. Because if he keeps going at the rate like this was a good win for Oklahoma. I think give him another year, see where he's at with it. I think he could potentially be what Oklahoma needs, but it's just going to take some time, I think. But at the same time, you got to watch it too, because previous games before that was just it was hard to watch.
So this game hasn't sold me on him, and I honestly think they need a dominant defensive performance to really sell me. He's supposed to be this big defensive coach, but he hasn't had a good defensive performance all year. That's what I want to see out of Oklahoma. I want to see him to actually be able to run the Brent Venables
He
defense.
is a big defensive coach, though.
He was a good defensive coordinator, but it doesn't look like it's translating.
It doesn't really have to translate if you look at Clemson's defense that he had. I'm not saying that Oklahoma's defense is good, but I'm saying as far as defense, he knows what he's talking about. I think he was the best defensive coordinator in college football overall.
Well, Well, then something bad has happened.
I mean, like I said, I don't have the answer to that. I don't understand.
Their personnel at Oklahoma is not, on paper, any worse than what he was working with at Clemson. There's a lot of 4- and 5-star guys. They should be able to run his defense. It's not like he's out there working with 2- and 3-star guys.
I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying, as far as what he did at Clemson, it's weird to kind of see that. But also, he's a head coach, not just defensive coordinator. So
yeah, of course.
There's a lot more that goes into that. All right, let's see. We'll talk about
what I think was the game of the week. Great game. I was able to catch most of it. The Alabama Crimson Tide walking into Knoxville. 3:30 game on CBS. Classic SEC matchup. I mean, it was great. It was entertaining until the final play of the game.
I have never screamed so loud and hard for a team besides Clemson ever than I did for Tennessee. Man, one thing. Okay, we'll give our thoughts at the end. Let's just go over statistics right now. So for Alabama, Young passed 35 of 52, 455 yards, 8.8 yards averaging.
And Bryce Young, he was questionable for the game, but he played the entire game. He didn't miss any. Even though he looked like he was probably only about 80%. He didn't look fully healthy.
Let's see. Gibbs was 24 carries, 103 yards, 4.3 yards averaging, 3 touchdowns. Young also, I forgot to mention, had 2 touchdowns for passing. And then receiving was Latu with 6 receptions, 90 yards, 15 yards averaging, 1 touchdown.
Good day.
For Tennessee, Hooker, 21 of 30, 385 yards, 12.8 yards averaging,
that kid
5
is good.
touchdowns.
Hendon Hooker is my Heisman favorite. Hendon Hooker's for real. He I think, is the best player in college football this year. He is dynamic. He also threw his first interception of the entire season in the Alabama game.
Yeah, because he had 1 interception. Still 5 touchdowns, though, man.
That's pretty good to be this far into the season. You only have 1 pick against Alabama.
Yeah, of course. No, I wasn't knocking him or anything. That's good. Like, he played his ass off. Wright, for the leading rusher, it was Wright with 12 carries, 71 yards, averaging 5.9 yards a carry. 0 touchdowns. Leading receiving was Hyatt with 6 receptions, 207 yards, 35.5 yards average.
You want to know something crazy about that kid?
What?
Columbia native, grew up a Gamecock fan. Will Muschamp wouldn't even give him a visit. Said he wasn't good enough to play in the SEC.
Well,
if you needed another reason to hate Will Muschamp, there's one.
I told you from the start, even when, not necessarily you, but like when the rest Carolina fans were, Will Muschamp's gonna come in and just change the organization. I'm like, do you know who the hell Will Muschamp is? He is for the worst of everything, which I wasn't arguing with. That's fine. I mean, like, do whatever you want. But
Will Muschamp is a complete slapdick. Everybody hates Will Muschamp, and the fact that he wouldn't even give the kid a visit. I mean, you got to keep those local South Carolina guys home. You can't let other schools pull them out of your backyard like that, because, I mean, that could completely have made this a completely different offense. Just that one, him as a player.
He had 5 touchdowns that game.
Yeah. I watched the game. He was all over the field. And the fact South Carolina wouldn't give it, I mean, it makes me so mad. If anybody knows Will Muschamp personally, just kick him in the balls for me one time.
Actually, interesting fact, Hyatt was all passing touchdown. He was the only receiver catching the ball in the end zone that game. Interesting, man. Interesting. Yeah, that was... Final score to that was 52-49. I thought it was funny. I was sitting there watching it because if you Alabama fan, don't take it to heart, but I hate Alabama. I hate Alabama.
I I got no hard feelings against Alabama. I like Nick Saban.
Just nah. I hate Nick Saban.
Also, fun fact: Tennessee Tennessee broke the streak. Before that Tennessee-Alabama game, Alabama had not lost to an SEC East opponent in over 4,000 days. The last SEC East team to beat them was South Carolina in 2010.
Damn, 2010. Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Watching that, on a Alabama, I will say, even my dad said it. Everyone I've ever talked to, whether you hate Alabama or, you love Alabama, whatever, their kicker, they got one of the best kickers in the league. And he blew it at the end. He missed. There was a lot of pressure on him, but
Alabama has weirdly, no matter how good of a kicker they've always had trouble making big-time field goals. Like, if you go back and watch, there's several games where that's happened.
I think it has a lot to do with nerves. I don't know, but he, I think he attempted a 51-yarder? A 51-yard field goal?
I don't remember the exact yardage on that last field goal.
I just think I remember seeing that. Well, he attempted it, went right, wasn't too far off, but it was still off.
He whiffed it.
Clearly. Yeah, he whiffed it. And then I watched Tennessee get the ball back, 15 seconds left, drive down the field, huge pass. Man caught it, hit the ground, called a timeout with 2 seconds remaining. Just in field goal range, kicked it in, won it. It was phenomenal. I think now I will say both sides of the defense couldn't stop the other team for nothing, man. I mean, I was watching. There was just open holes everywhere. Mostly midfield. You hit those. Just slanting the midfield. They had it every time.
Every time.
On both ends. Both ends were doing the same thing.
Neither team was playing very good defense.
No.
They were getting.
It was all offense that game, and overall, I'm very happy with the win by Tennessee.
I'm glad to see Tennessee beat Alabama. I don't like to see another SEC East team do that good, but it was time. It'd been 15 years. It's good for that fan base, and I've always had positive interactions with the Tennessee fan base. I like Tennessee fans. I went to Knoxville a few years ago. Everybody there was nice. No one was heckling me. Nobody was being mean. Everybody was just nice, friendly.
Yep.
I like that fan base, so I'm happy for Tennessee.
Oh, yeah. Good win. All right. The next game we're going to talk about is, I guess we can go South Carolina. You already know how to bye week.
Yes, South Carolina definitely beat the bye week. Taking this extra week, going ahead and getting prepared for Texas A&M. Big swing game coming up this coming week. That can change the complexion of the end of the season. You lose that game, you're probably going 6-6. You win that game, or you can go 7-5. With the momentum, you might even be able to go 8-4. But it's a swing game. That game is going to determine a lot of the momentum, because after that game, you've got Missouri, which is beatable. You got Vanderbilt, which is beatable. You got Florida, which no one really knows what Florida is at this point. They've been all over, so they could be beatable. And then you go into that last two terrible game stretch there at the end where we got to go play Tennessee, and then we got to play Clemson.
How did the bye week beat the bye?
Beat the bye. We'll continue next week with Cocktober. This is our month, baby. We ain't losing in October. It's Cocktober all the way.
Dude, that sounds... That don't sound right, man.
Hey, it's Cocktober.
That don't sound right. All right. Well, I think the game we're going to close out with is the still undefeated 7-0 Clemson Tigers played the Florida State Seminoles.
The Semi-Holes.
Went into Florida and got the dub, man. Got the dub. I watched that game from start to finish. Definitely being on the road somewhere. Florida State, I would not take anything away from them. They're a good, stout team overall. They're a good team, stout players. They've played stout this season. They're 4-3, 4-2 whenever we matched up with them. They've had a stout
the same
season
record as
so
South
far.
Carolina. 4-2 coming in that game.
They're a pretty stout team. So first half was a little, I don't know, it was kind of back and forth a little bit. I think it was
competitive, especially in the first half.
I think it was just going into Florida. That stadium's loud. Their fans are loud, just like our fans are loud whenever you in Death Valley. So you just have to adjust a little bit.
You know what surprised me about that game?
What?
Your run defense looked way worse than I thought it was going to. Florida State was able to gash you on the ground, which I haven't seen Clemson really allow this season. There were some big runs, especially running off the counter.
They had some runs, but either way, pulled out the W. We'll go to the statistics now. Uiagalelei, 15 of 23, 203 yards, 8.8 yards averaging, 3 touchdowns. DJ is just on point. DJ's been on point, and he's comfortable. I mean, I sat there and watched him. He'd hike the ball, form around him. There was players literally grabbing him, and he was comfortable
He had a
as
lot
ever.
of composure.
Just stepped into the pocket more. Hit him every time, dude. I mean, his passing's beautiful. He rushes when he needs to rush, man, and that it's good to see him do that. If he seriously cannot find an open player, he'll hit the Jets. You know he's cut some weight off. He's lost some weight, and DJ looks stout, man. Will Shipley was the leading rusher.
That boy's good.
Will Shipley is a freak of nature, dude. He is something else. He's just like ETN. The man will not go down. He will run through you. 20 carries, 121 yards, 6.1 yards averaging. Clemson receiving was Williams, 2 receptions, 76 yards, 38 yards per reception, 1 touchdown. Overall, like I said, going into an away stadium like Florida State, it's going to be loud. It's going to be something to get used to. But overall, I'm proud of the game we played. I think we played a good game. And on to the next now.
Just on to the next.
Yeah, that's all.
One down, next up.
Yeah, that's how it goes. So, yeah, I think it was we play Syracuse next week.
Syracuse is sneaky good this year.
Syracuse
Anybody
is
that's
ranked
not
14th.
paying attention.
Syracuse is 14th. They're also undefeated.
Yeah, but
6-0.
have they played anybody?
I don't know. I haven't kept up with their schedule this year.
But Syracuse, I didn't know they were undefeated. I know they're pretty sneaky good this year.
Yeah, man. It'll be overall, really, every week of college football this year has been just a good week of football. I mean,
Yeah, every week's been entertaining, except for, I guess, week 0. But, I mean, that's week 0.
Yeah, of course. Overall, I'm happy with my Tigers, like always. 7-0. And let's keep it going, baby. Let's stay undefeated, keep the streak alive, and let's do it. Shit happens. Go Tigers. Got any remarks before we end the podcast?
Go Cox. Cocktober, baby. Not losing this month. It's our month. Wake up every morning in October, hop out to bed, put my swag on, look in the mirror, say what's up. We'll hit that U on Texas A&M next week. Get ready.
Y'all great. Y'all need to chill out with the TikToks now, man. Y'all need to chill out with them damn TikTok. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. Have a good one.
Like the video. Subscribe to the podcast. Comment. Tell us if you liked our opinions. If you think our opinions are stupid. Just interact with us, man. Let us know what's going on. Make sure you check out the other social medias. A lot more content coming on Instagram and TikTok. A lot is in the works for those. A lot of content is in the works for those platforms. There's going to be a lot more content coming out. It's not just going to be the daily podcast or the weekly podcast. We're going to have a lot of short form content coming out. A lot of stuff to interact with everyone. We're going to build a community around Rival Opinions. Let everybody get your casual, friendly arguments out. Everybody be respectful. But, you know, you can argue. Talk a little bit.
Yeah, I want to argue, so comment so I can argue with you. No hate, just argue. You need a good argument sometimes. But you guys have a good one. Thank you for tuning in, and see you next week.